All right, welcome back to Calhoun County's Most Wanted, the program where you get to help make Calhoun County a better and safer place by helping us lock up the bad guys. I'm Chris Wright, along with Calhoun County Sheriff Matthew Wade. Sheriff, good to see you.
Always good to be on the show, Chris. I tell you what.
Did we have a good Labor Day?
I did. It was a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I had some fishing, some barbecuing. It was just good.
We got to go down to the beach and visit with my sister-in-law, so we won't call that a vacation. We took my dad down with us, so on the way back, my wife is riding in the back seat, and she's complaining because now the new seatbelt rule has come into effect, and she's got to wear the seatbelt in the back seat.
Absolutely. September 1, there's a couple of laws that changed. One of them is that you have to wear your seatbelt in the car. You say, well, I've always had to wear my seatbelt. It was only the front two passenger, the driver and the passenger in the front of the car that had to wear it. Now, if you're in the vehicle, you have to have your seatbelt on. And from Matthew's point of view is, why would you not want to wear it? You know, you always hear people say, well, I would have got killed if I had my seatbelt on. The odds are, if you have a very bad crash, if you don't have that seatbelt on, you're going to die. You're going to be ejected. You're going to have a severe head injury. Wear your seatbelt.
Yeah, my brother is one of the exceptions that proves the rule. He had an accident when he was a teenager and was not wearing his seatbelt, got thrown out of the vehicle and survived. Ever since then, he has always worn his seatbelts because he knows he beat the odds.
Absolutely. You know, if you have a wreck at any speed, if you don't have that seatbelt on, you're going to leave that vehicle, and chances of you surviving are very, very, very slim. So, you know, I know people talk about the government shouldn't have to make me do something that's safe, but I would say for the people that love you, for your loved ones, for the people you got to care for and care for you, wear that seatbelt.
And how about for the officer that has to come help dig you out of that car?
Absolutely. You know,
the first responders, they don't want to have to deal with that.
Absolutely, and it's just a good thing to do. We want you to be safe. We care about you. We don't want you to get hurt. And
another thing that people are talking about is the left lane issue.
Yeah, they call it the road rage law. You know, I guess people ride in the left lane, and now that's illegal to do that. You can get a ticket for that. We call them left lane laggers.
I think you've got like 1.5 miles that you're allowed to go without passing in the left lane. If you go further than that,
you can be stopped and wrote a citation for it. And it's best just to teach your kids. And for us, you know, sometimes you're driving along and you just decide, hey, I've been riding in the left lane for a while, and I don't know why. But just remember to stay in that right lane unless you're passing or about to turn. And that way maybe control some of this road rage, because I see it on Facebook all the time. People talk about people in the left lane and won't go. So,
yeah. And regardless of what you think, well, I'm going the speed limit, that guy shouldn't be going any faster than I'm going. The reality of the matter is, it causes, and whose fault it is or whatever, let's forget about that. It causes people to lose their minds when they're stuck behind somebody in that left lane. We don't want people losing their minds on the road. No,
you know, road rage is bad. Nobody wins. Doesn't matter if you think you're right or the other person's right. Road rage is going to just make sure that whoever's involved or both parties will probably be in trouble and or get hurt over it, and it's just not worth it.
All right. We need to take, actually first, let's say thank you to our viewers for the work they did.
Thank you for the arrests this week. 3 arrests brings our count up to 4,447 people put in jail, all because someone was willing to help us out, and we cannot do it alone. This is a partnership, and thank you for your help.
All right, we'll have the first half of this week's lineup coming up in just a few minutes, and also talk about how to prepare for different disasters when we come back on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's get started with this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Up first is Dwight Baird. He is wanted for violating the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act, and also for a probation violation for the Community Notification Act. Ardarius Savage of Birmingham is wanted for a probation violation for second-degree theft of property. Marco Trejo Resendiz of Oxford is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for sexual abuse, first degree. Charles Ramsey of East Aboga wanted for failure to pay for the unlawful manufacture of a controlled substance. Anthony Holloman of Anniston wanted on a probation violation for identity theft. Rosalind Montgomery of Anniston wanted for failure to appear for theft of services, first degree. And Felix Burns of Talladega is wanted for failure to pay for the unlawful manufacture of a controlled substance. I'll have more bad guys for you here in just a few moments, so stick with us here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, we'll have more bad guys for you here in just a few minutes, but right now, Sheriff, we want to get ourselves prepared for things that might be happening here in the future.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of talk about the weather and things that's been going on this week, and hopefully a hurricane will miss the United States.
Yeah. It's certainly having some effects along the East Coast. Michael Barton from the Calhoun County Emergency Management Agency is with us, and we do feel like Alabama is going to be safe from this event at this point, right?
That's what the National Weather Service is forecasting, that Alabama's not going to have any effects directly from the storm, and hopefully, if things keep projecting as they are, the storm is going to turn north and avoid the United States altogether as a direct impact.
Right. Staying off the coast is a good thing, but still you're going to see some impacts along the coast there. And,
there will be.
A lot of millions of people have been ordered to evacuate their homes because of this, and already we've had lives lost because of Hurricane Dorian. This is not one to mess around with. Why is it moving so slowly?
I don't know. I'm not a meteorologist. I just respond to the disaster. But it is interesting that it's been so slow, but thankfully, it won't impact the United States.
I think the only thing moving slower than Hurricane Dorian yesterday was Interstate 65 northbound.
Yeah.
People coming back from Gulf Shores.
That's travel weekend.
I think we haven't seen the effects yet of the Bahamas. I think when news actually comes out from that Dorian stayed over for over 24 hours is going to be devastating to human life. So.
It will be. Life and any property there, I think.
Yeah, there's not much we can do about that at this point, but what we can do is prepare ourselves for the disasters that we know are going to come here in Calhoun County. Some of them definitely will happen. Some of them may or may not happen in the future, but we know there will be tornadoes again in Calhoun County. We know that the remnants of hurricanes will pass over us at some point, and this month is Preparedness Month. It is.
It's National Preparedness Month. The theme for the month is Be Prepared, Not Scared. Kind of a catchy theme, but it helps you to think about those things that, instead of waiting until it happens and being in a panic and being in a frenzy and being scared because you're not prepared, it gives you the opportunity to look ahead and be sure that you've got your things in order before disaster strikes.
Are there certain types of disasters that you would say people in Calhoun County are better prepared for than others?
I think when people think about disasters in North Alabama, they think about weather. Tornadoes probably is the thing that we've had the most experience with, that people most commonly, prepare for. But we need to be prepared for everything. We had a flash flooding event a few months ago that affected several houses in the Sachs area, Linlock Lane, and that was something that was totally unexpected and not happened before like that. And so you never know. You just have to be prepared. Active shooter threats, we see that all too often. Reported throughout the United States, and so those are things that you can't necessarily predict like you can weather, and so you just have to be prepared. So we have to take a lot of measures in preparedness in a lot of different ways.
Where are we putting the most of our efforts at the EMA?
So we really put a lot of efforts into public education and making sure that everybody has at least 3 different ways that they can receive emergency alerts. That way they know that something's impending. Everybody's very technologically driven today, so everybody's got a phone in their hand, and to make sure that they can get alert by it. But what if that fails? Then what's your next step? So sometimes people say, well, weather sirens. Well, weather sirens are not. While they are dependable, they don't cover a big, wide area as what you would think, even though we have a lot of them in this county. They're made for outdoor use. And so if you're inside the structure, whether that's your house or school or business or whatever it may be, you're not going to hear it inside. And so we encourage folks to have weather radios. And you may say, well, that's old-fashioned. Well, it's reliable. So if the cell phones go out, that you've got that means of communication. So we encourage everybody to have at least 3 different forms of communication to be able to receive that emergency message. To do so in Calhoun County, you can text Calhoun EMA to 888-777, and you'll get free emergency alerts through text message directly to your cell phone.
And of course, the social media accounts are very helpful as well.
They are. Through the Emergency Management Agency, we try to work social media and push out information there. And then a lot of other folks take and share that information. Sheriff, y'all share it, every time, and you make sure that you've got a lot of good information out there for folks to see on your social media accounts, as do a lot of other public entities. And so we encourage people to share that. And in terms of being prepared in that notification, we encourage families or friends to make sure that they check on their loved ones and make sure they call them and say, hey, did you know that this maybe, we're in the path of this, or hey, you need to be prepared for this or that, whatever the case may be. And just to check on them, to follow up, make sure that they've gotten that notification, but that follow-up phone call or visit maybe to an elderly family or friend always helps.
The social media, I think, is something that we don't want to rely on that as one of our 3 methods of notification, probably, because it's not going to be as immediate and reliable, because you don't always get every notification and such. It's great, though, for having a little bit of knowledge ahead of something whenever we suspect something may be coming, and then after the event itself, for staying up to date on the latest information that doesn't necessarily warrant an emergency alert over the cell phone.
That's right. It's a good way to push out information just to be aware of, but to actually get that emergency alert, you need that text message notification, you need that weather radio, you need one of those 3 methods to be able to get that emergency alert so that you can take action immediately.
And Sheriff, on that social media theme again, when we start looking at, okay, the public is now sending information back to the Emergency Management Agency or the Sheriff's Office, social media is one way of communicating. It's probably not the best way for very important, vital information, is it?
It's not, and we have that happen daily. I had it happen last night and this morning. People want to send us stuff on private messages, posted to our Facebook page, or tag us in it. While a lot of times we say, hey, you need to call 911, or you need to call the Sheriff's Office. You need to make a report of this. Actually, putting it on Facebook is not a report to law enforcement. We have to get that written record, document who told us what, and move forward on an investigation from there. And a lot of times people don't want to do that. They say, well, I told you on Facebook. Facebook and technology is changing really quickly, but it's not replacing the actual fact of having a deputy or law enforcement officer take that written report.
That's right. The name social media, it's just that it's social. It's to help, but it doesn't replace the official means of notification.
That's right.
All right, we need to take a quick break, but we need to talk about some more things here before we wrap up. So we will be back in just a few minutes. We'll have the second half of this week's lineup and talk more about how you can be prepared for things that may, or in some cases definitely will, be coming in the future here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Okay, here we go with the second half of this week's lineup on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. Mary Moody of Oxford is wanted for a failure to appear warrant for 2 counts of fraudulent use of a credit card. Casey Champion of Jacksonville is wanted on a probation violation for possession of a controlled substance and failure to appear warrant for use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Jamia Hall of Anniston wanted on a failure to appear warrant for use and possession of drug paraphernalia. Thomas Bird of Oxford is wanted on a failure to appear warrant for possession of marijuana, 2nd degree. Andres Ramirez of Anniston is wanted for failure to pay for domestic violence, 3rd degree harassment. Anthony Guidurgis of Rome, Georgia, wanted on a failure to appear warrant for theft of property, 2nd degree, and attempting to elude. If you have any information, please let us know. Call Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name, and you could get a cash reward of up to $1,000. All right, we are back. We will have the Crime Stopper segment of the show coming up here in just a few minutes, also our Crazy Criminal of the Week. But Sheriff, right now we're talking about being prepared for the many different ways that we could be facing emergencies.
Absolutely.
And Michael Barton is with the Emergency Management Agency for Calhoun County. Michael, one of the most important things that we can do is have a plan for the emergencies that are viable, realistic situations we could see.
That's right. So we talked about having that means of getting a notification 3 different ways, but what are you going to do when you receive notice of, hey, there's an impending problem, there's an emergency that you need to respond to as a person? What are you going to do? And so to make that plan before the event ever happens is crucial. That's what's going to either allow you to succeed through it or not, and be in trouble and have to have folks to come rescue you and those kinds of things. So to have that plan in place is very, very important.
And that's not something that you can just say, here's the plan you should put in place, because we're all different. We have different family situations, work situations, whatnot. So everybody's got there are some guidelines out there. If you look for plans on the internet and whatnot, you can get some really good advice. but you've got to come up with your own plan.
You do. We've got some resources on the website for the Emergency Management Agency. It's www.calhounema.org. And there's a lot of different checklists and different resources, different websites to go to look to help think about what are the kinds of things you should be preparing for. But generally, you've got to plan for your home, you've got to plan for your workplace or your school, you've got to plan for those places you go and have recreation, or maybe where you go worship. What are you going to do when you're at any of those places and an event happens, whether that's a weather-related event or maybe an active shooter event or any type of an emergency or disaster? What are you going to do at each of those locations? Some of the principles are specific to that site if you have to shelter there, but some of them are general, in terms of having that notification or having a kit that you've got a backpack with you maybe that's got some basic supplies in it, a flashlight, that you've got some water, that you've got some snacks, just some things to get you by, for the first 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours, and even up to 72 hours that maybe you need to be self-sufficient. What are you going to do if you have special medical needs? Do you have your medication with you, or how would you get that medication? How about your children or your the rest of your family, or maybe you have elderly, family members that need extra care? How are you going to care for those, and what resources do you have in place to meet those needs before the event ever happens? Those are the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about and planning for.
All right, so just looking right down the calendar right now, at this point, what are the things in the coming months that you think are most likely to be potential issues for folks in Calhoun County?
So when we think about weather and disasters, that's the most common threat that we have here. Right now we're entering hurricane season, and while we don't have a direct threat to that, we can have some of the effects of it. And thankfully we won't with this storm now, but there may be another one coming right behind it. So we have to think about those things. Coming up very soon in November, we'll begin to have our tornado threat. And in Alabama we have 2 tornado seasons.
Yeah,
really.
A lot of people think about spring and they don't remember the late season as much.
But one in the
November
fall,
is deadly.
really November and December are deadly times that we have to be prepared for. And then again, in the spring is a high likelihood of tornadoes. So to be prepared for that, have those means of notification, have those plans in place. Talk about those things now in September, which is National Preparedness Month, so that you're ready in 2 months when we begin having problems.
All right. And of course, if people want to talk to the EMA and find out some information, they can get in contact with you.
That's right. Our website, www.calhounema.org, is a great place. Or if you'd just like to pick up the phone and call 256-435-0540, get one of our staff members or duty officer 24/7. But remember, as the sheriff said earlier, if it's an emergency, you need to call 911 and get responders out there to help take care of the problem right then. But if you just need general information questions, we're glad to help anytime.
All right, just real quick, one thing. You talked about the weather alert radios, and old-fashioned but still great. If I'm going out to purchase a weather alert radio, what should I be looking for?
Just one that's reasonable within your cost area, but also one that maybe look up reviews on it beforehand to make sure that it was good and that it functioned. You can always bring it by the Emergency Management Agency. We'll help program them or send somebody out, if we need to do that, to make sure that it's up and ready to go.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Let's hope that we don't see a lot of the things that we're preparing for.
Hopefully we won't, but as history shows us, that they will come, and we just don't know when, but we have to be ready for them.
All right. All right. We are going to take another quick break. We will be back with the Crime Stoppers segment of the show and our crazy criminal here on Calhoun County's Most Wanted. All right, let's take a look at some recent property crimes and see if you can help us solve any of them. On August 28th, a black toolbox with various tools inside was stolen from a location on Webster's Chapel Road in Wellington. On August 29th, a red Troy-built pressure washer was stolen from a residence on Meadow Lane in Oxford. Between August 28th and August 30th, the burglary and theft of property occurred at a residence on Seven Springs Road in Wellington. The stolen items were a Stihl backpack weed eater, an air compressor, a rigid pressure washer, and also the owner's utility trailer. Between August 31st and September 1st, a white 2007 Nissan Altima was stolen from a residence on McLean Drive in Oxford. Can you help us solve any of these crimes? If so, please contact Calhoun County Crime Stoppers at 256-238-1414. We want your information, not your name, and you could get a cash reward of up to $1,000.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
Yeah, Sheriff, I know that you and your deputies try to be all over Calhoun County as much as you can be, but it's impossible to be everywhere all the time, right?
That's correct.
I know some law enforcement agencies occasionally will stick a car out somewhere that isn't necessarily manned. I'm not going to ask you if you do that or not, but there's a law enforcement agency actually in the UK that decided to use a cardboard cutout of a police officer with a traffic laser gun or whatever to check the speed.
Somebody stole it?
Yeah, somebody stole the cardboard cutout. The cardboard cop has been kidnapped. So they're on social media now and addressing the public that they want to get their,
Kind of like Where's Waldo,
their
isn't
officer returned.
Yeah, you kind of asked for that one, I think. I mean, if you did a cardboard cutout, that's tempting to folks. You know.
But now they are reminding folks that theft is a much more significant crime than speeding is. So
Yeah, that's true. But sometimes you can make it worse. You know, they got, as the cops would say, they got busted.
yeah.
So.
But, you know, there are some things that you might take that would be hard for somebody to recognize as being a stolen item. Somebody sees that in your house or apartment or car
Probably
or whatever.
frat house.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere like that.
They're going to have a pretty good suspicion that you don't actually own that.
Yeah, that's probably in somebody's, party area somewhere. They probably done gave him a name and drew on him or something. But,
Probably so.
Giving
Kind
him
of
a funny
disguise.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the time that we have for this week. We'll be looking for you again next week. Hopefully not a cardboard cutout of you either on Calhoun County's Most Wanted.
I'd have thought about it, could have said it.